All right, guys. So probably the number one race hustler in the world right now, Ibram X Kendi, has exposed himself once again for the fraud that he really is, as he accidentally undermined his own views on white privilege and systemic racism in a now deleted tweet, in which he outlined how more than a third of white students lied about their race on college applications. Right now, again, to somebody who does not have to be a PhD, right? If you read that tweet that Kendi sent out, essentially the idea is that, well, it is more advantageous to be a so-called minority or person of color in order to get into college, right? Because of affirmative action. So therefore, it is harder for whites, right? Whites face a uphill battle in regards to getting into college because of affirmative action, which goes directly against Kendi's whole academic career, right? Everything that he's done in his life, right, has been based off this idea that this society is systemically racist at its core, right? And that white people are advantaged in every single way, that white people have privilege over everybody else in all institutions. That's essentially his argument, right? That's essentially his argument. This guy, again, it's the same guy that's saying if you're not being actively anti-racist, then you are a racist. He has made it so there is no neutral ground, right? And I'm telling you guys, anytime this man is challenged, he folds immediately, right? He folds because his ideas don't really stand up to criticism. This is why social media tries so hard to protect the man, right? Because they don't want his ideas challenged. I already knew this man was a fraud because remember, I did a video about him probably a month or two ago in which he said that the vaccine mandate is not an example of systemic racism. And again, that's funny because this guy is literally the same guy that says that any law or policy that disparately impacts black people, like the vaccine mandate does, because for whatever reason, black people, right, seem to be more vaccine hesitant. He the one that said that any policy that has a disparate impact on black people is racist. But when asked about the vaccine mandate, right, that the left supports, when asked about that, oh, no. All of a sudden, systemic racism goes out the window. That's not a systemically racist policy anymore, right? And he tries to do mental gymnastics to, justify that, right? But again, it just shows you who he really is. He's actually really a fraud. And anytime he's challenged on his ideas, he folds like a wet napkin. So let's actually read a little bit more about this, as this man's going to get roasted on Twitter for exposing himself as the fraud that he really is. Author and activist Ibram X Kendi, who upholds the ideas that white privilege is rampant in American culture and systemic racism keeps minorities in states of oppression, shared an article on Twitter that revealed that more than a third of white students lie about their race on college applications, according to a survey. Kendi's statement, which he later deleted, read that more than a third of white students lied about their race on college applications, and about half of these applicants lied about being Native Americans. More than 3/4 of these students who lie about their race were accepted. Kendi has said that America is a slaveholder republic and wrote a children's book about how to teach babies to be anti-racist. Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey gave $10 million to Boston University to create the Center for Anti-Racist Research under Kendi's direction. The article from The Hill found that 81% of students who fake minority status did so to improve their chances of getting accepted. 50% of students who lied said they did it to get minority-focused financial aid. But if white privilege is so prevalent and pervasive, why would white kids feel the need to disguise their whiteness in order to gain acceptance to college and aid to help them attend? Could it be that these white students felt that as opposed to giving them an edge, their whiteness was a hindrance to their admittance? Well, yeah, that's definitely it, right? That's definitely it. Okay, and that's why Kendi deleted the tweet. Right? That's why he deleted the tweet. Because, again, it's a direct example of why his ideology has holes in it. Because, again, he's the one that told us that, hey, you know what? Like, you know, these white people, right, that are supposed to be the most powerful people in our society that's controlling everything. But for whatever reason, when it comes to getting into college, these white people feel like, wait. It's more of an advantage for me to be a so-called person of color, or to pretend to be a so-called person of color, to lie to get into college, right? When in Kendi's world, if you, again, adhere to his ideology, why don't they just mark that they're white? Why don't just mark they're white? Because apparently white people are supposed to have an advantage, right? But see, that's not true. And we know that's not true because, again, of affirmative action and diversity quotas that a lot of these schools have, in which they have to admit a certain amount of people from certain groups, right? Regardless of whether or not they're actually qualified to be there. They have to admit those people. So again, we have a clear example of a system set up to advantage people who are not white, right? Clearly, right? Clear example. But yet, instead of Kendi essentially trying to defend the tweet, right? To say, hey, you know what? Look, even though this is an example of, a system that actually, doesn't necessarily benefit white people, it doesn't disprove my whole ideology for X, Y, and Z reason. That's what he could have said. He could have tried to make that point, right? He's an academic. But again, instead of doing that, instead of trying to defend it, he just deletes it. And in my opinion, that's the part that really exposes him as a fraud. The fact that anytime this man is faced with any criticism whatsoever, he folds like a wet napkin. He's incapable of defending himself because his ideology, again, is based off BS, and he knows it. He's a race hustler out here getting money from guilty white liberals to keep it 100 with you, right? That's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. Let's read a little bit more here. 13%, the Hill reports, falsely marked that they were Latino, while 10% falsely claimed to be black. 9% of those surveyed lied that they were Asian or specific islander. Of the students who checked identity boxes to which they were not entitled, 85% believed that falsifying their racial minority status helped them secure admission to college. The numbers further show that 48% of those lying about their race were white male students, compared to only 16% of white female students. Well, I wonder why, right? Again, because they say that it's a hierarchy, okay? Because they say that men, right, it's the male patriarchy, so men have more of an advantage. So the most advantaged, privileged group in our society, according to woke revolutionaries, are white men, straight white men. But you have the most privileged and advantaged group in our society, according to woke revolutionaries, essentially lying on their applications, lying, right, about their color, about their race. Why is that? Because they know that being a white male, right, is not an advantage for them, right? They know they're actually disadvantaged in this aspect of society because of their race and their gender, right? Again, direct opposition to Kendi's ideology here. Kendi presumably shared the story before he realized that instead of holding up his own ideas about race and society in the U.S., it could be evidence of exactly the opposite of his views, which would be likely why he deleted it. If white privilege is such a decisive factor, then why do white students feel that their applications would do better if they pretend to be something other than white, and why would those applications be so successful? About 3 in 4, or 77% of white applicants who fake minority status on their applications were accepted to those colleges, the Hill reports. Boy, this is why you need a colorblind admissions process, right? This is why you need a colorblind admissions process, right? That's the actual answer, right? That's the actual answer. That way you won't have white people using their so-called privilege, which is probably what Kendi would think, to act like they're minorities to get in, right? So if you got an issue with that, right? If that's a problem, Kendi, then let's have a colorblind admissions process, bro. You should be for that. The fact that Kendi posted, then deleted the tweet raises red flags about his ideology. Political writer Chad Felix Green said that Kendi's comment was collapsing your entire worldview into a giant sinkhole. Kendi then blocked him. So like I said, yeah, people that challenge this man and his ideology, if you say anything, he blocks you, right? He blocks you, okay? That's what he does. So yeah, he's getting roasted, right? He's getting roasted on Twitter. And he can't handle it. His brain is exploding. And he gets in this back and forth with Jack Posobiec here, who's a prominent commentator on the right, in which Jack says that he broke Kendi, and Kendi basically responded to Jack coming after him by saying, they lie about what I said to defend the lying of white college applicants. Well, I mean, nobody's really defending it. They're just saying, listen, this is an example of how in this situation, being white is not an advantage, right? Which goes against your world ideology. Again, instead of defending that point, Kendi, again, he doesn't want to actually have a debate about it. He also says, here's their tortured line of thinking. When white applicants think they have an advantage by lying about being a person of color, then that means they do have an advantage, which means that structural racism doesn't exist. Well, the problem with your tortured line of thinking here, Kendi, is that white people or white applicants that think they have an advantage by lying, it's not that they just think, they actually know. We actually know that a lot of these colleges have racial diversity quotas, right? And here's the thing, it not just affects white people negatively, it also affects Asians, right? Asians in Ivy League schools, this is notorious, right? Asian communities hate affirmative action, right? For this very reason, because they tend to outperform and they go to these top colleges, and obviously they're the best students because they have the best scores, but these colleges are saying, no, we can't take all you people because it would be too many Asians, right? So they accept less Asians, which again is something that the Asian community has actually been battling in court, right? They've been battling in court. Matter of fact, I believe that Biden's Justice Department dropped a Trump-era lawsuit against the Ivy League university for discriminating against Asians. I actually believe that Biden did that. So, again, obviously, this system where there's an advantage of not being white exists, right? This is not something they're just thinking, okay? This is actually facts. But again, he's not concerned about facts. And again, when challenged on his beliefs, he either blocks you, right? Which I believe he did block Jack Posovet at some point. But he also calls you racist, right? He calls you racist. He says Jack couldn't deny his lies. So this is how he responded. And his quote broke reference has a long history within racist structures. White slaveholders boasted of breaking black people when they did not break black people. The resistance never stopped then, and it won't stop today. This dude is so fragile, right? Ain't these the people? Right? In a book called White Fragility, right? Maybe they need to write a book called Black Fragility and use Ibram as a case study, right? Because this sounds like black fragility to me. You are triggered because the man said that he broke you. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. This man is an absolute fraud. But anyways, all the more reason why we need probably to get rid of affirmative action and to have a colorblind society where you don't have to worry about this type of stuff. Kendi, that should be something that you're for, but he's not, because again, he has money to make, right? And a whole lot of guilty white liberals to take advantage of. But let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a black conservative perspective. Peace.